A toddler melts down on a Tokyo train. The mother does nothing. No yelling, no bribing, no stop it right now. She just waits. And here's the thing. She isn't ignoring her child. She's doing the one thing most Western parents are taught never to do. By the end of this video, you'll understand why she's the calm one and why the Western reflex to step in is making things harder, not easier. She knows something most Western parents don't. And what she knows isn't a trick, it's a philosophy, one that's quietly outperformed us for centuries. Before you assume this is an internet stereotype, researchers at Hiroshima, Harvard, ETH Zürich, and Osaka have spent 2 decades documenting why Japanese children regulate their emotions so well. The answer isn't strict rules. It isn't fear. It isn't even discipline, at least not the way the West means that word. It comes down to 3 Japanese ideas: shitsuke, mimamoru, amae, and one daily ritual that ties them together. Each flips a Western assumption. Each is backed by research. The first starts with a word whose meaning will surprise you. It starts with one word, shitsuke, and the way it's written tells you everything. Picture a calligrapher with a brush, slowly shaping a young plant, so beauty becomes part of how it grows. That's the image. The Japanese have a word for that approach, shitsuke. 2 characters, one meaning body, one meaning beauty. To attach beauty to the body, not punishment, not control, beauty. In the West, parents are taught to wait for bad behavior, then react. Yell, take the iPad, time out. For a few minutes, it works. Then it happens again. That's treating the symptom, not the cause. Japanese parents do the opposite. They ask one question every time their child acts out. What skill is my child missing right now? Not how do I stop this, but what does my child not yet know how to do? Children misbehave because they lack a skill. Emotional regulation, patience, communication. Shift from punishing the behavior to teaching the skill, and everything changes. And one detail most coverage skips: Japan only outlawed corporal punishment at home on April 2020, April 1st, 2020. And yet for centuries, Japanese kids have been ranked among the calmest in the world. The fact that they stay calm isn't ancient magic. It's that for centuries, a parallel philosophy was quietly doing the work, even when the law allowed the alternative. And to be honest, Japan isn't immune. A 2025 study in child abuse and neglect shows Japanese parents hit in childhood are still more likely to hit their own kids. The point isn't perfection. The point is the playbook for non-punitive discipline has been refined for centuries, and science now backs it up. So if shitsuke is the question, there's a second word for the harder part, the part where you wait. That's where most Western parents break. Now, go back to that mother on the train. Why didn't she step in? In Japanese pedagogy, there's a metaphor that's nearly a century old. A teacher's job isn't to push the water, it's to shape the banks and let the river find its way. They call it mimamoru, written with 2 characters, I and protect, to watch over while protecting. In the West, the reflex is automatic. Child struggles, step in. Child cries, solve it. Child fails, rescue. And that reflex comes from love. But here's the unintended consequence. Every time you rush in, you send a silent message. You can't handle this on your own. In 2021, Associate Professor Fuminori Nakatsubo at Hiroshima University ran an ethnographic study. 46 early childhood educators, Japanese and American, watching the same footage. He wrote this line. Read it with me. Although the mimamoru approach looks passive, it rather challenges educators to remain patient, watching and waiting for children to think and act on their own. It looks passive, but it's actually the hardest kind of patience, watching,
waiting, holding back. And this isn't just a Japanese idea. At ETH Zürich, Professor Manu Kapur calls it a productive failure. A meta-analysis of more than 12,000 learners shows the same thing. Kids allowed to struggle first outperform kids who get the answer up front. And to be precise, this isn't about danger. If your 2-year-old swings something at someone, that's a safe situation, not a learning moment. Mimamoru applies to emotional struggle, frustration, boredom. And what we're describing applies to neurotypical development. Spectrum needs and trauma histories add layers this video doesn't cover. A good clinician can. Most coverage of Japanese parenting gets one thing backward. People assume calm kids must come from cold parents. The truth, and this is where the warmth shows up, is exactly the opposite.
If you assume disciplined kids must come from strict, cold parents, the science tells a different story. Picture a baby in a sling, physically close, constantly held, never alone. The Japanese have a name for this, amae. The psychiatrist Takeo Doi translated it like this: the feeling of being able to depend on another person's love. And amae isn't a dependency in the English language sense. It's interdependence, a mutual permission to lean. Because a child who knows that love is unconditional develops a nervous system more capable of self-regulation. They don't act out to get attention. They don't test limits to feel secure. And this isn't just a Japanese theory. Harvard's Center on the Developing Child put it like this in their 2024 update on resilience. The single most common factor for children who develop resilience is at least one stable, committed adult relationship. The single most common factor for children who develop resilience is at least one stable, committed adult relationship. Warmth first, structure second, not the other way around. Now, to be honest about something, Japan also has a serious adolescent suicide crisis. 529 students in 2024, a record. 532 in 2025. But the documented drivers are exam pressure, peer conflict, and work culture, not infant attachment. The anthropologist Ann Allison has spent 2 decades on this at Duke. And one practical note for American parents: Japanese families often co-sleep. The American Academy of Pediatrics can't recommend bed sharing under any circumstances. So think of amae as the principle: warmth, accessibility, and immediate response. Bed sharing is one cultural way to live it. Room sharing, contact napping, baby wearing, they all carry the same principle, safely. So that's the foundation. Now the question is, how do you build on it? And the answer is something Japanese kids do every single day, with mops in their hands. Quick question. Have you ever noticed that Japanese children clean their own classrooms? Every single day. No janitors prompting them. They just do it. That's not an accident. And it's not really about cleanliness. The anthropologists Joseph Tobin, Hsueh, and Hsueh Karasawa have spent more than 3 decades filming inside Japanese, Chinese, and American preschools. And here's what they found in the Japanese chapter. The teachers don't call it cleaning. They call it seikatsu, life skills practice. The children aren't being made to clean. They're being shown what membership looks like. And then they perform it every single day. Behavior becomes character through repetition. In Japan, children as young as 4 set the table, pack their own school bag, clean up after lunch. Not because the parents need the help, but because these small rituals, every single day, do something extraordinary to a child's sense of self. They start to see themselves as capable, responsible, people who contribute. And identity, once formed, drives behavior far more powerfully than any rule ever could. In the West, parents set rules, enforce consequences, reward good behavior, but often forget the part that does the real work, building the identity underneath. Japanese parents don't say, "Clean your room because I said so." They say through daily ritual and modeling, "This is who we are."
And children rise to meet that identity. Every time. Shitsuke, mimamoru, amae. Prevention, trust, connection. Warmth first, structure second. So try this. Pick one small daily ritual. Have your child set the table before dinner, or pack their own bag for school, or say thank you before every meal. No pressure, no reward, just expectation, just trust. Give it 3 weeks and watch who your child starts to become.
Because in the end, this is where the research and the culture both agree. Japanese parents aren't calmer because they've built a system. They're calmer because they've built a child. One ritual, one moment, one small act of trust at a time. These aren't ancient secrets. The research at Hiroshima, Harvard, ETH Zürich, Osaka, Duke, and Chicago backs every one of them. They're human truths, refined in one culture, available to every parent right now, starting today. So tell me in the comments, of the three, shitsuke, mimamoru, or amae, which one is hardest for you to actually practice? Not the easiest to like, the hardest to live. Because that's the one you're probably about to grow into. Watch who your child starts to become. See you in the next one.